With a sudden move, a well-known .NET library FluentAssertions has become a paid product.
Damn!
In this video, I will go through what happened within the last 2 days and what it means for .NET developers using FluentAssertions today. I want to split this video in 3 different parts. First of all, I will show you the implications of this change, and I will show you how much FluentAssertions now cost and who needs to buy a license. Next, I will discuss the issues raised by the community, including possible legal problems with relicensing existing work. Last but not least, I will discuss what we as .NET developers should do, how we should react to the situation, and what options we have going forward. I also reached out to Dennis with 4 questions, and I will share his response later in this video. It all started on January 14th, early in the morning for me, with a merged pull request on the FluentAssertions GitHub repository. In addition to releasing FluentAssertions 8, a new license was added, replacing the Apache 2.0 license for that repository. As you can see, no description is provided for the pull request changing the license. However, when we open the commit, we see that a new license was added, whereas the Apache 2.0 license was previously referenced. The new license essentially states that commercial use now requires a license issued by Exceed, a Canadian software company. When we open Exceed's website, we will learn that a FluentAssertions license for commercial use is priced at $129.95 and is charged per developer per year. It's a subscription for each developer using FluentAssertions for a commercial project. I leave it to you whether charging $129 per developer per year makes sense for a utility such as FluentAssertions, where its main goal is to help you with writing assert statements for your automated tests. Just be mindful that if you want to use FluentAssertions 8, where this license was added, and let's say you have 10 developers on your team, you must pay almost $1,300 per year. And to make things worse, those licenses are not transferable between developers, also known as no seat swapping allowed. That said, for non-commercial projects, you can continue using FluentAssertions, including the latest FluentAssertions 8 release, without purchasing a license. Now let's talk about the issues with relicensing from the Apache 2.0 license to the Exceed community license. The GitHub issue has over 200 comments, and I read all of them until I started working on this video. It seems that development for version 8 was done while the Apache 2.0 license was in place. There was no sign that the license would be changed before the release of version 8. In addition to Dennis and other developers affiliated with Exceed, there are community contributions. For example, a fellow Swiss developer contributed 2 notable features: nullable support on should methods and XUnit 3 support. The issue here is that those contributors didn't know about the future license change when they contributed to the project. In the end, it means that their contributions will be used for others to make a profit off of their work. Also, what's even worse, they won't be able to use their own contributions in their commercial projects because of the license change. I'm not a lawyer, and I don't think that maintainers of open source projects should work for free. Anyone who wants to build a paid product should be able to do so, and the customers can decide whether they want to buy the product or not. However, taking contributions from different developers and changing the license right with releasing a new version of the same product doesn't sound right to me. Maybe it's questionable legally, but it's definitely bad morally. It's worth mentioning that I reached out to Dennis with 4 questions about the sudden decision to change the license and whether they think this change is legally okay. Dennis did not answer to my questions. However, he responded that he is no longer the owner of the repository and therefore cannot be specific about the things going forward. However, the following quote was included in his short response. I know that Exceed is very much aware of the feedback and trying to decide how to react. They absolutely 100% care about keeping FluentAssertions a great library. Otherwise, I would have never accepted their offer to collaborate. He also stated that he loves open source and that we will continue to work on it. I also found a more detailed message within the hundreds of comments on the pull request. You can pause the video to read the full comment. I guess it would have more impact if this statement was part of the description of the pull request in the first place. Meanwhile, I want to share and discuss a few more comments raised by the community about the license change. Benjamin Abt highlights the importance of open source software licenses to protect the creator and the consumer of a project. He even goes as far as saying if changing the license like it happened with FluentAssertions, it would be the end of free open source as we know it today. Another comment features a definition of free open source and commercial open source, and that it's really a good idea to think of possible monetization options at the beginning of a project. There are also comments defending the decision and stating that it sucks that you have to pay for stuff that was free last week, but that doesn't make the maintainers greedy. The problem is that we all are software devs, and in the .NET world with tools like this, these aren't usually used for small personal projects, but in commercial, larger projects. If you argue that the tools we're using should be free, why should your client have to pay for your work? I don't agree with that statement because my customers know that they will have to pay for my work because they signed a contract. I do not provide them with open source software and later suddenly change the license and start charging them for my work. I also don't let others work for me on my open source project and later monetize their work. This finally takes us to the question what options we as .NET developers have if we're currently using FluentAssertions in our commercial .NET projects. The simplest and short-term solution is to lock the dependency on FluentAssertions to version 7. Version 7 is still available under the Apache 2.0 license and allows free commercial use. You can do that by changing the version number in the project file. Doing so will prevent accidental upgrades to newer versions in the future. It's highly unlikely that the community will create a fork and continue work on FluentAssertions. You either stick with version 7 or you migrate off and use another solution. When it comes to migrating off FluentAssertions, I see the following options. Migrate to another library such as Shoodly. Shoodly provides a similar Fluent interface for writing assert statements. Another option is to implement the extension methods yourself. This approach obviously depends on how many different methods you're actually using in your project from the FluentAssertions library. Another option is using the native APIs that your testing framework provides. For example, mstest, xunit, and nunit all provide assert functions. They might not be Fluent, however, they will get the job done. Do you know of another library or what solution will you use in the future? Please let me know in the comments below. Now that I have shared the situation, the problems, and provided alternative solutions, I want to share my thoughts about the situation. First of all, luckily for me, none of my commercial projects use FluentAssertions at the moment and don't have any dependency on it. I'm therefore not directly affected by the license change and I don't have to make the decision whether I want to buy a license, migrate off FluentAssertion, or stick with version 7. I clearly understand that maintaining a big open source project requires a lot of work, and I don't say it has to be done for free. I think it's an ongoing problem that we as a community have to fix in the future. There are many examples of successful open source projects maintained by a few developers and used by millions of developers worldwide, including big companies. Yet, nobody is willing to spend money on it. However, I think that sometimes we have to understand that some software works really well as a free product but cannot be turned into a paid product. And I believe FluentAssertions is such a product. It adds convenience, but it's not required to add business value. The simple question is, how do you convince your boss to pay $130 per developer per year for using a simple tool like this? I'm absolutely not against charging money for a paid product. However, changing the license as it was done with FluentAssertions is definitely not the way to go. It's just not a predictable move. GitHub user Robert M. Claus also shares a similar opinion in his comment. We have other examples in the .NET ecosystem, such as Identity Server. Identity Server was previously a free open source project. They then decided to make a paid version for commercial use with a new release. However, they didn't change the license from one license to another in an existing repository, but they built a paid product on the base of the free open source project. In my opinion, that's a way better solution to handle this problem. I'm curious to see how the situation further develops. For example, I'm curious to learn whether relicensing the work made by third-party developers will have any consequences in the future. I personally decided against using FluentAssertions in the future for any project that I work on. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to learn more about .NET development in the future.